Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Ecommerce Insights. I'm your host, Scott DeGrossier, founder and CEO of Wicked Reports. Today, I have the Chief Marketing Officer and a longtime friend of Wicked, John Parks, here. Welcome, John. Thanks for making time to be on the show.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Great to be here.
So, Chief Marketing Officer, that sounds like you have a lot going on. I know ClickFunnels, big company, always scaling, growing, well-known company in our digital marketing space. What's like the day-to-day of your CMO duties and scope? What are you tasked with doing over there?
That is a great question. So it's interesting. The chief marketing officer, there's so much that you have to pay attention to. So I start the day getting my team together. We call it a marketing stand-up. We all get on a call and we've got this spreadsheet called the marketing timeline that kind of helps us understand the different initiatives we're doing, how we're approaching them, how many days left until this one launches or that one launches, or where we at in this phase or that phase, how many new users did we get in here, buyers over there, things like that. So we've got this kind of metrics and timeline doc that we review every morning, and everyone gets together and reviews that. And each, sub-department head has a moment to speak and talk about their initiatives and what they're doing. And that kind of keeps us on track and keeps everything kind of top of mind with such a variety of different projects that we're working on. It's important to be able to at least bounce on each one on a daily basis and just say, okay, we haven't forgotten about that one or that one, and we're moving forward well.
Is that kind of based on the Scrum process of the daily stand-up from engineering?
Yeah, it is. It's similar to that. It's our own flavor on it, what works for us. But it's good to get and not everyone speaks. Like I said, only the heads, like our head of content, she speaks for her whole team. We don't get everyone in there saying something because that would just take too long. I think we're about 50 people in the marketing department, including content creators and writers and graphics people and video people, the whole deal. So, and all of our media buyers and funnel builders and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we start out the day, and then we determine what needs more focus and what doesn't, and I tend to have 2 or 3 big focuses that I'm looking at in the week, or maybe even in the month. Maybe this month it's just we just need to improve conversion rates on this funnel, or we just need to do this, or we've got to produce a training for our coaching program, or we need to. So I'll have these really specific things that I need to proactively do on top of all of the reactive that happens when you have a large team. There's always people coming and hitting you, and I've just got a great team, and a lot of the success I think in our team, what we've seen comes down to the fact that intentionally or unintentionally, we've been able to train the leads of these sub departments to take a lot of responsibility, and so there really is a good balance of how many direct reports every management position has, because when that gets out of balance, when you've got 20 people reporting to one person, things are out of whack. That one manager is not able to handle that many people. Those people feel neglected or not listened to. So there's got to keep that good balance, and so we've really strived to make sure that there's a good balance of no more than 8 people reporting to one manager, and then no more than 8 managers reporting to me. And keeping that balance has been really helpful in everyone's day-to-day when it comes to the marketing department.
Yeah, that's a 50-person operation. That grew a lot from the one funnel.
Oh, right?
So you're the CMO, and then Dave Woodward's the CEO. Then how does Russell does a lot of content, but how does he fit in? Does he kind of swoop in and out, or where's he plug into all that?
Yeah, you could give him 1,000 titles. First and foremost, he's founder, right? Co-founder. He and Todd Dickerson co-founded with ClickFunnels, the software and the cash cow of everything we do. And they are still deeply involved in the production of front ends, of the vision of everything. Maybe we call him chief vision operator. I don't know. Maybe I don't know exactly all of the titles we could give Russell, but he's definitely always there, always involved. Dave is the CEO. He's doing the CEO stuff, running all of the company. He's basically, everyone's reporting to him in a way, and through their lines, and he's just making sure that everything's running, and that the big company objectives are happening, and that the leadership is in place properly, and that they're leading properly, and all of that. and that the big visions are pushed down through the company. But Russell is definitely, I mean, he's the visionary. He's the one who's always upfront with the new dream and the new idea and the new, and for a lot of it, the new marketing campaign. What's the new big message we're launching? What's the new big piece that we're going to put out in the world? So that's what he loves to do.
So the 50 people in there. Now, you first came up, I believe you were the media buyer back in the day. So now you have how many different media buyers or agencies? How do you slice up who's doing what off? Is it by offer? Take us through like the planning. So you got the quarter and you got this budget and you got all these people that want to run ads for you and do emails. How do you,
That's an
big
awesome
project to kind of corral, I would imagine.
It really is. So we kind of have it structured, and it kind of just grew this way organically, but it works really well for us. In Google, when it comes to the Google suite of advertising, we have basically two guys. One who focuses on YouTube. You know what? No, we recently changed it. We have one guy in Google, because this is why. Once you set up your search campaigns and your display campaigns and a lot of Google now, the smart display, and there's a lot of algorithmic things happening there where it doesn't take a lot of manual adjusting once you find it, right? So Google has a lot of set and forget, especially in the search. Set up all your keywords, adjust, spend a couple of months or even a year or whatever figuring out where's the good stuff, where's not the good stuff, trim it all out. And then it's just a matter of just revisiting it, right? And adjusting in small ways. And so Simon, our Google media buyer, is able to manage all the search and all the display and discovery and the YouTube being the one that's the most active in management, right? So he handles all of that. So we have this internal agency. So Simon runs all the Google. Then we've got Usman, who runs all of the Facebook advertising. And that one takes a lot of active management because the campaigns seem to be shorter lived there in Facebook than they are in the Google side. And so he's always managing that and adjusting budgets and creative and just making sure everything's working really well. And then we've got a guy named Grant who he's basically our other than Facebook and Google retargeter guy. He's running TV, Hulu, TikTok, Pinterest, everything else, right? Everything else where we could find, and we don't do a lot of, we divide our advertising into prospecting and retargeting buckets. We don't do a lot of prospecting, basically marching out there into cold audience and trying to grab new users who've never seen us before. We don't do a lot of that on platforms other than Facebook and Google, but we do a lot of retargeting, right? So when it comes to like Pinterest, TikTok, I'm not thinking of the other one, or
Snap. Do you know any Snap? Or I don't know if Snap would work with ClickFunnels. Yeah, wonder.
A little bit. We do have a Snapchat account. I don't know how much we spent, but it's a little bit. And then what's the other one I was thinking of? Oh, LinkedIn. We do a good bit in LinkedIn, but all of them are difficult when it comes to prospecting and seem to be a bit more expensive. And so we tend to do our initial cold, prospecting, the difficult punches in the Google and Facebook platforms. And then once we have people hitting our pages, taking action, engaging, stuff like that, then we retarget them with the other platforms, right? So Grant does all of that, and and he does a great job. So we have that internal agency, and that internal agency has its very specific focuses. They run everything to ClickFunnels.com, as well as a variety of other front ends. But we have other agencies that we've brought on over time, just in an intention to scale things. We, for example, like we'll bring them on, and usually when we bring on a new agency, we'll have them focus on one offer. And I know that some companies, might not have as many front end offers as we do.
You guys have a few.
I'll back up and kind of tell you the model of it and kind of understand our psychology behind it. We love sales funnels, and we've got this belief that we've proven through numbers. I was showing Dave Woodward the numbers the other day. And basically we get, for the most part, everyone that comes in through a front end offer is a free ClickFunnels. If they find their way into ClickFunnels, they're free to acquire, because we have these self-liquidating front end offers. So, hey, come buy this book that's about copywriting. Come buy this book that's about sales funnels. Come buy this, or come opt in and get this free download over here, or this or that, right? A whole bunch of different ones. Come get a bunch of come get a swipe file that teaches you all about different lead generation funnels, and pay us an extra $17 and get some templates to go along with it, or whatever it is, right? So like a whole bunch of these different front end things that don't necessarily say ClickFunnels on them. Whether or not you know anything about ClickFunnels or software, or you intend or maybe you're not even looking for sales funnel software. You might be looking for this piece of education or this book or this training. So we get you into our world with these front end offers. You come in, you pay us $10, $20, $40, something like that. Something that's simple to purchase, low barrier to entry, easy decision to make, no reoccurring costs, like software tends to have. And then you're in our world, and then we can email you and we can text you and you can read the book. And in the book, it explains why you'd want to add ClickFunnels to your life, and you're in your email sequences, and maybe you're following us on social now. And there's all these other ways now or we can retarget you, right? And cross target you. And then, and so these front ends, we spend $1,000, we make $1,000 is what the goal is on
that. That's the dream, right? Because then you can spend almost unlimited.
Exactly. So you kind of spend whatever. Yeah. Like you said, a large budget. I think we're over $1 million. Oh, I know we're over $1 million on those front end offers right now, and we spend into them, but we generate that revenue back. And then those people, as they find their way into ClickFunnels through, like I said, all the different communication channels and encouragement that we give them to get into ClickFunnels, they're getting into ClickFunnels with a zero cost per acquisition in that mindset, right? It didn't cost us anything past the revenue we generated. So that model is something that's just been our bread and butter at ClickFunnels. And so having so many different front end offers, if we do want to expand, we'll bring on an agency and we'll give them one of them. We'll say, hey, here's this book, make it live. And here's the parameters that we give them. We know what our cost per acquisition is because we know what our average cart value is, right? Mm-hmm. We know what our average order value or our average cart value, however you want to say it, is. We know it's $45. And we know our cost of fulfillment to ship that book out and everything is it's $10. So we know we've got $35 to play with. We know the agency themselves is charging $5,000 a month plus 10% override. So we bring that CPA, we adjust our CPA based on their fees. They're going to charge a large fee. Well, they've got to work harder to get to earn it, right? Or they're going to charge a lower fee. Well, they've got more CPA room to play with. So we adjust it, and so then we tell them, based after this and after their fees and everything, they've got to make a sale. You got to make a book sale every $20, right? So they know their exact parameters. We need you to make a book sale every $20 you spend, and we need you to do 1,000 of them in a month, right? So they've got their volume, and they've got their CPA target. And with those two, then we can evaluate their performance and say, hey, did they do it? Did they not do it? And then one other thing we look at, Scott, is how effectively then are the people that are being brought in converting into ClickFunnels users, right? Because that's the big purpose.
Yep. That's where all the LTV comes in.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was fascinating. First of all, it helps. So, did the education pieces come, I guess, because Russell always used to teach people on how to do marketing. So you had all this educational content funnels. Seems like a good strategy for a lot of companies would be, though, educational software to help lower your CPAs, because otherwise you're just constantly trying to get them to take the software or buy this high ticket item. And instead you can fund your advertising. You don't need to go off and say, hey, we got to spend $300,000 and we're going to see it back in 4 months. It's 3 months from now, we're going to see all this profit. It's all profit at that point. It's beautiful. Yeah,
we have a 14, or if we're feeling ambitious, a 30-day window where we want to have made back all the advertising. And that's just looking at the front end. Like you're saying, it's not, if we sell somebody, if we spend $100,000 to sell the .com secrets, but within 14 days or 30 days, if we want to scale the spend and have more room, but we've played with both models, we want to see that $100,000 back in revenue, like you're saying. And often, in most cases, it's back to us before the person's through the sales funnel.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the ClickFunnels sales funnel model. That's what we bring to the market, that we're trying to, that's the big message that we have, is be profitable on the front end. Like, this is something that's new to SaaS. This is something that's new to a lot of online marketing. Like you said, instead of try to find your money in 90 days or 120 days, or what's that forward point at which you finally break even. It's like, make it the moment they go through that sales funnel. But structure a sales funnel with the proper order bumps and upsells and downsells, and look at your metrics and make sure that you're you're breaking even by the time they're through that initial experience.
I'm already thinking of all my content. I'm going to need your favorite funnel for me to study. I'm serious, because it makes total sense, because we have a topic where you need to learn a lot, and the more you're educated, the more you like it. I have a ton of content, and I'm not doing any of this. It's
Yeah.
genius. I really like it. So so when the agencies with the different media buyers, you get Facebook versus Google, do they just, here's your offer, and then they spin up all their different ad hooks and go wild with ad hooks and targeting? Or how much do you like seed them with either past data, or, hey, we've already tried these things, or this is a good offer, just scale it for us? How do you handle that handoff?
That is a great question. We've played with a few different models, one where we control all the creative, and then we just feed it to them and say, hey, run this, run that, do the management, we'll do the creative side, you do the boring side, right? And that almost always works better. I can't really think of an instance where it didn't. And I think that's what the conclusion we're coming to is that, that we control what we often call the hook story offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The creative tends to have a hook in it, a story in it, and then an offer. Even if the offer it's just the call to action at the end of that creative, whether it's an image, a carousel, a video, whatever it is, there needs to be some kind of call to action. Click through to get or whatever it is. We control what the hook story offer is. Often we control the whole piece of creative, the video, the image ourselves in house, and then having a kind of library that the agencies can access. Some of our creative team is employee, like, salary employee, whatever. And some of our creative team is just certain agencies unto themselves, and the creative agencies that we've found over the years that we really trust. And we can go to them and say, okay, here's the idea. We want you to lead with this kind of a story, or this hook, or this. Or sometimes we just say, hey, wild card, you guys make something. Bring it to us. You
just hand them the end result. Here's the product. Figure it out. Ooh, I need that referral.
and it doesn't always work. We got one the other day that didn't work. I got back the video, and I'm like, oh, that is not. That's not going to work. There's nothing about that's going to work. So that's always riskier to do that. But yeah, we've got those relationships, whether they're, like I said, whether they're in-house or whether they're just real close associates of ours that we've been working with for a long time. We produce the creative. We have the library. The other reason why it's good to have a library, and we have actually the library structured of our creative, where we produce the piece and then we release it to our media buyers. So we say, hey, here's a video. Here it is in a square format. Here it is in a landscape format. Here it is in more of a skinny swipe up format for Instagram stories or things like that. Try the different versions. Try them on YouTube. Try them on Facebook. Whatever. And then they go try it out, and then they come back. And we're in this instance we're using ClickUp, which is just basically a glorified spreadsheet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just management software. But it allows them to then in that line item, in that row, mark and say, this one worked on a scale of like 1 to 5. This one worked like a 4 on Facebook, but only a 2 on YouTube. But it worked as a 5 out of 5 as a swipe up or something. And so we're able to kind of see over time the trend of our creative choices. And 2 reasons. One is because we can find themes. You know what I mean? We can find hooks that just work. You know what I mean? Every time we talk about how McDonald's does their upsells, they don't make any profit on the burger, but as soon as they say, hey, go buy burgers and fries, well, that's where all the profit is. And so that's the upsell model. And so that's what ClickFunnels does. And, and people can make that synchronization in their head with that story. Whenever we use that, it works, right? Or whenever we fail to put a good story in there, we don't. So we can see the trends, and we can see what hooks are working, what stories are working, and we can just reiterate on them. Like there's certain hooks that we've reused 1,000 times, it feels like, but just a new visual associated with the same hooks concept or things like that. So it allows us to find those themes. But the other reason is it allows us to recycle creative. It's an interesting thing where you run an ad for a month and then it seems to kind of burn out for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then 6 months later, you can go back and reuse it and it's got new life. So that's also interesting.
Oh, that's a nice treat.
Yeah. You just do what you just basically turn the campaign back on 6 months later, and you're like, oh, it's working again. So it's interesting.
That's nice. I know
audiences cycle out,
yep.
And all that kind of stuff. So
and then if email rolls up under you, then the email team, are they writing? Is there any try to synchronize the paid team with the email? Because like if the email closes them like 3 weeks out, and the traffic team is still excited, or they say, hey, I want the good emails going to this, or who traffic cops that? Does that roll
No,
up to
that's
you or?
a great question. With email, we have an interesting model. So they hit our page, and then if they opt in, then they become email subscriber. Yeah, that's definitely my team that does that. So we tend to have two email sequences. One that's close to the offer, that's tight. Maybe it's 6 days, 4 6. Maybe the longest would be 9 days long. But they opt into the offer, and either they buy it or they don't. If they don't, then they're on a track to try to get them to buy it. And if they do, then they're on a track just reinforcing that sale, being like, oh, we're so glad you bought the book. This is why the book's so cool. Make sure you read it when you get it. How have you, have you taken the next step and gotten a ClickFunnels trial, whatever? And there's this short stack email that's really relevant to the funnel that they just went through, right? It's relevant to the book that they just bought. And then once they're at the end of that sequence, then they jump into this super long indoctrination sequence that Russell curated and built out himself. He's genius copywriter. I think it's 60 pieces long, 60 emails long that yeah, I know. And it's fantastic. And it just walks them through all the different pieces of indoctrination and things they need to be watching and understanding and the different books that they could buy to complement that initial thing that they came in on, and why they need to get ClickFunnels, and in 60 days of just indoctrination is what we call it. And so there's that 2-stack email process that works really well for us. When it comes to like attribution and who gets credit for the sale and stuff like that, it's a cumulative effort. We understand that had the media buyers not brought the person to the table, then the email couldn't have gone to them, and had the email not worked and converted them, then media buyers would be up a creek anyway. So we tend to look holistically at the picture. A recent report that we just kind of built out to try to test kind of a new thing that we want to look at is everything that we're spending on a specific funnel, and even broken down by channel. So to the .com Secrets book in YouTube, we spent $50,000. And from what we can tell from Wicked or whatever, that we can attribute $60,000 of revenue back to it, not including subscription revenue, not including ClickFunnels revenue. And then we're like, okay, so that one's breaking even. If we factor in, fulfillment costs or whatever, then we're right about that break even mark. So anything that comes from it, any ClickFunnels user that comes from it is free. Or if it's not breaking even, what can we do to make it closer to break even? Or if it's not breaking even and we can't get it closer to break even, are we okay with paying that $10,000 to get 10,000 new leads and to get 100 new ClickFunnels users? So we kind of have that internal report that kind of puts those side by side and helps us make those decisions.
Yeah, I remember because we had talked to you guys and then made some tweaks to cohort report.
Yeah, exactly.
It was interesting to see that you say 60 days of emails after approximately 2 weeks, because 90 days out, you always have double the lead value, always.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And so it's like, it's definitely working just at a macro level. Like you see it like clockwork. It's usually in sometimes higher, but it's almost always double and then some 90 days. And it keeps going up as people keep paying for ClickFunnels, sometimes more dramatic. You can filter by different campaigns and see, hey, well, this campaign brought the better leads because these customers are more of them must be paying for ClickFunnels because their LTV's up and up, up and to the right. Well, actually, I was pointing to the left there. I don't know. It's up. It's all that matters. Yeah. So customer lifetime value then, because you guys are already just saying, well, I know I'm going to liquidate. And then is it because your customer lifetime value is that dialed in down the road that you can, that? I mean, because your LTVs are generally $300-$400 a lead. So, I mean, I guess, hey, if we come getting it at $20, we know LTVs like 20x. It just takes a while.
Like I said, up until recently, we haven't looked at long-term LTV in relation to front-end lead very much. It's a new concept for us to look at that. We've always looked at a very short window of can we generate leads and self-liquidate them in a 30-day window. Because if we can do that, then let's just bring in more and more and more and more. And like you said, we've got really strong indoctrination sequences to incorporate them into our culture and into our world. Like we have a Facebook group that has, oh goodness, I can't remember. I think we're over 500,000 people in that Facebook group, which interestingly enough is 5 times the amount of active ClickFunnels users that we have. 5 times as big. So it's this huge culture pot, I guess, this group of people slowly but surely building themselves into ClickFunnels users. I mean, some of them are past users, some of them are existing users and stuff. But but they're getting into that group, they're getting into the world, they're getting into the culture through email, through social media, and that nurturing process just makes ClickFunnels users for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a nurturing. That would be tough to attribute. How
No.
many Facebook group touch points did it take?
And that's the thing, the bigger your brand gets, that's one thing that's always difficult, is the bigger your brand gets, there's definitely a point where you just have to look. I mean, you always try to look at as you can, like you said, like Wicked helps to see like lead to LTV or lead to revenue and that exact attribution lines. But there's definitely just a general lift. You have to
Yes.
attribute sometimes, brand awareness kind of things. Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been great. Really fascinating look behind the scenes of an all grown up marketing operation. What do you guys? What are your goals for the rest of 2021?
More users. We really want to get more ClickFunnels users. I mean, we say that looking at numbers, obviously, because that's a measurement tool, but we say that because we have so many stories. Like I don't know if have you seen pictures of our office where we have those plaques, the 2 Comma Club award winners?
Yeah.
We put them up on our office walls, and we're running out of office wall space. You just walk around, it looks like the Country Music Hall of Fame with just all these golden discs everywhere because they're like records. Every single one of those represents a ClickFunnels user that we've helped get their business to $1 million revenue, and that impact that we have on individuals is what drives us forward as a company. That we have a saying in our company, what we do matters. You know what I mean? And we have it branded on shirts and all over the company. We even have a weekly meeting we call the Pulse meeting. And in the Pulse meeting, we have multiple stories, both internal, like employees stories, and external user stories of how what we do matters and how we've affected people's lives, just to keep our focus on the user's success.
That's great. All right. Thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it, John.
Hey, it's been
Have a
fun
good-
stuff.
Have a good one. Later.